week 9, Shadow UAS Hard Kill. I'm Ethan here again.
I'm Azim.
I'm Sarah. I'm Lindsay.
Don.
So let's put the problem statement into perspective before we continue. So you're in enemy territory and you identify a drone as a threat. And so what equipment you have right now, you launch your whatever solution you have currently, it doesn't work. Use your rifle, that's not working either, and you have the ability to harm whoever's around. So what we need is something that's safe and effective and takes one shot to take down the drone.
So last week we really focused on, again, our MVP. We wanted to see if, with the functions that we had currently with our MVP, that we found that a lot of secret technology could already do it, but we didn't have like the ability to get access to them. So we wanted to talk to our sponsor to see if we can combine those functions with our current MVP. And we have an interview with them tomorrow, so hopefully we can get that figured out. And then our second thing is computer imaging can also give insight into depth/distance. One of the things that we were concerned about is that if we only have one camera, we won't be able to figure out what distance the drone is from the actual bullet. And we actually accepted this, but the caveat was that we had to actually have 2 cameras. And that works similar to your eyes, and like you have 2 eyes, and the second eye basically gives that depth perception and distance from the bullet. And then based off of that, we also found another alternative. So instead of using 2 cameras, we can also use something called LiDAR imaging, which basically is like a laser system that Sarah's going to talk about more with her MVP. And then in terms of our customer discovery methods, since we're approaching the end of the semester, we're going to be really focusing on polishing our MVP. There's a lot of small details that we still need to work out, so we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, so far this week, nothing has really changed significantly from the mission model canvas, besides the fact that we decided to take fighter pilots off of our list of beneficiaries just because they're no longer really in the scope of the problem.
So our customer archetype is still the infantry soldier. All the main points still apply for them. They need to have basic combat training. They need to have an understanding of drones and drone detection. And then they also need to be able to carry out and complete missions. So our quotes are still here. These are important for us. Having a self-guided missile is really nice when you're in the field because there's better accuracy. And then the biggest thing we have is people's lives are in danger. So they need a solution, and we're trying to find it.
All right, so not much has changed from the VPC since last week. However, in the past few weeks, we've had a lot of luck talking to people who would fit the demographic as the end user. And the pain that came out that we haven't been able to address is detection methods. And we agreed that that's outside the scope of our problem, so we're going to focus on what we're doing right now.
Our customer workflow is a little bit different today, so it's still the enlisted soldier. You analyze the environment. A drone is detected, and if a drone's detected, it's going to be an enemy drone threat. So you make the quick decision of a hard kill or a soft kill.
So we're revisiting our very exciting MVP this week. We've made a couple of modifications as we are understanding its mechanisms more. So to recap, the sensor technology is going to be computer imaging. That's going to detect the drone, recognize that it's a drone as opposed to a bird or something, and then tell the fins, which is the navigation system, what to do. We'll go back to computer imaging in a second. The fins are going to tilt to keep the bullet, to stop it from spinning, and then to navigate where it's going to be turning. The inside of that is going to be the net, which has a CO2 cartridge behind it. When that explodes, it will catalyze the next phase, and it'll be right on top of the drone, basically, at that point. So I'll come back to that in a sec. Computer imaging.
Yeah, good. No.
Oh, no, you're good. Go back one.
So when Sarah says, it's going to differentiate objects, whether it's a bird or a drone, it sounds good in theory, but a lot of people are kind of just like, okay, well, how does this work? Because it's all invisible. It's all within the processing unit. I'm not going to try and break it down every step by step, But this right here gives you, is a little chunk of that and gives you maybe an idea of how the processes within the processor actually come together to make this possible. So you've got you got the CV, the MML, and the high GUI. So the CV component contains a basic imaging process and a higher-level computer vision algorithms. And then the MLL, so that's a machine learning library, and it includes like the statistical classifiers and clustering tools. So that's pretty much what contains most of the trends that various images that the camera picks up has, and it takes those and classifies them. You've got the next one, high GUI, which contains routines and functions for storing and loading the video images. And then all those come together into the CX core, which contains basic data structures and content. And this is just a way for the computer to take the image that it has and use mathematics and algorithms in order to kind of identify this image versus a different object. It pretty much creates an object with the image.
So the main changes to our product is that there are no pieces falling off. This makes it a little bit tighter, more efficient. Instead of just the fins being weight, the whole bullet is going to detach into 4 pieces, as you can see here. And so the question that you should have in your mind is, well, what happens to all the inside stuff and the stuff on the front? So can you switch to this? So this is a little hard to represent visually, but think of this as the back of the net at the very end. Inside, there's going to be the computer imaging, the sensor, and that's just going to be attached on the inside of the back of the net. On the other side is going to be the back part that has the propellant and the CO2 cartridge. The CO2 cartridge, basically the way this whole process is going to work, the CO2 cartridge will explode when it detects that we are at the right location to the drone, and that burst of gas will propel the net out and expand the pieces apart from each other. We still have some questions that we need to work out, and this represents our progress because we're nailing down the very minutia. Main one being, what is the type of camera, which Azim touched on. We can use a dual lens, or we can use LiDAR, and LiDAR is basically like echolocation, but with lasers. So you send the lasers out, and based on the lasers that you get back in the timing that they come back, you can tell where things are. So those are the options we're looking at, and there are definitely some other things we're trying to work out the kinks for as well. So that's it.
Very nice. Feedback? Questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were talking about your MVP, you said you wanted the fin to help the bullet stop spinning. Why would you want to do that when that helps increase piercing to the air and accuracy?
That's a good question. First of all, because it has to switch directions. So if it's spinning, there's not a really good navigation system that you'd have to be constantly flipping the fins back and forth in order to get it to go in a coherent direction. Also, using computer imaging or sensing, it would be very, very complicated to figure out where something is when the sensor is like spinning around.
Take an image.
Yeah.
So it also, I would say that at some point the projectile is going to transition from being a bullet,
Yeah.
which is spinning for stability, to being a guided missile, which is using fins
Yeah.
to guide it in.
Bullet may be a misnomer, and it might be something we want to
Very
revisit.
true.
Yeah.
So I'm the novice, and I have trouble thinking about, when I think about LiDAR, I think about post-processing, and I think about stuff like that. Can you give insight, and maybe you don't have it yet, but I need numbers for how many seconds that takes to process, because as of right now, based on what I kind of know, like, there's no freaking way. But you know more than I do, so convince me.
Yeah, that's
And is the processing,
Yeah, even with the image processing, that's going to take some time. How fast is the bullet going? How fast do you need to update it? And to get it to move, how fast do you need to actuate the fin? I'm not convinced the technology may be there, but to me, I'm thinking that's a supercomputer.
But those are interview questions that you've got to ask, because I can't imagine having that much processing.
If I can, that's actually something we've considered, and from the people that we've spoken to, they said, yeah, it's going to be hard, but it is doable. And as technology progresses, progresses, it'll only get more accessible
Is the processing done on the bullet
Yes.
or?
Yeah,
on the bullet.
on the bullet. Also, another thing is, it's not gonna be traveling as fast as like
Yeah,
somebody.
it's going at grenade pace, not bullet pace, so it won't be as
So,
fast.
yeah, a bullet might be a misnomer, like you said.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, so it's not going to speed.
Data you have obtained from the interviews that supports what you just said?
But no, so like the big thing that we have is that a lot of the solutions that already exist right now, we can't get like access
all
or
classified.
information to them. They're like all classified. So we're kind of just making assumptions on a lot of it based off of our research.
But math is universal.
Well, I don't think they're allowed to share the math with us, but they're allowed to share their impressions. So that's, we do have research based on their overall general statements, but they can't give us hard numbers.
But there's some, like you can get the feet per second of the bullet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, how fast an average drone flies, you can get that, how fast, right.
Correct.
So you're talking, what kind of bullet are we looking at, what caliber bullet, what size bullet?
Yes, this is gonna fit in an M203, so it's gonna be 40 millimeter.
40 millimeter.
Yeah,
So it has a set amount of propellant,
yes.
all right? It's either gonna be a 40 by 50
Mm-hmm.
or 40 by 53. Either one's gonna be a high velocity, which is 40 by 53, or 40 by 40, because that's what the chamber of a 320.
Right.
It's not a 203 anymore. We now have
Okay.
320 in this.
Uh-huh.
That's what the chamber pressure can accept. That being said, going to the math thing, I ain't a math dude, but I know what the three laws of gravity are, motion, I know who Sir Isaac Newton is, and I'm a bullet head, so I know how to calculate my shot.
Mm-hmm.
Have you calculated how fast that bullet's traveling? Which I can tell you, 40 millimeter is going to travel at about 730 feet per second, roughly, because it weighs so much.
You can watch it. Yes.
Oh, yeah. You'll see it. So your long pole, from my perspective, is what effect are those fins going to have on steering the bullet if the bullet doesn't have anything moving it? Because it's got to travel through air. There's this thing called ordnance. And then three things happen when you shoot a bullet. The first thing that happens is it loses velocity, very first thing. The second thing is gravity takes effect, laws of motion. And then the third thing is environmental effects. You have environment, dust in the air, you have density, the Coriolis effect, all of those things work on the bullet. So you have to calculate that to see if you even have a viable, from my perspective, being a shooter dude, if that's even viable without, which is an option, putting a little rocket on the back of that bullet,
What we're doing.
which is already.
That's what we're doing.
So to
Yeah.
talk about the speed thing first, once the fins release, so that will slow down the bullet from going as fast as whatever you said it will. And then you want to talk about the rocket?
There's also, it's designed, it has propellant in it it's going to be like a rocket moving forward the whole time.
So it's gonna have like two stages.
Yeah.
So it's gonna
So
shoot.
think of like a firework, like it goes up and then once it reaches.
It's not two-stage though.
There's a protectant from the propellant.
But there is like.
Yeah.
We can clarify this more next week, but what I would like to say is those are important things to consider, but also speaking to experts, what they really express to us is, if you want to do the math on this, this is going to take 6 experts about 9 months to calculate. So it's really beyond the scope of our project, but we do want to consider it. It's just, we're not going to be able to come up with the numbers in this class.
I think the one thing to counter some of the discussion is to say that you gotta get the projectile pretty close to where the drone is, and you can make a final adjustment. I can't shoot it over here and get a drone over there.
Right.
I gotta get within 30 feet of it, and you can adjust the last 30
Yeah.
feet.
And the last comment, did you guys get any input back from the Gyro Arc Kill Challenge? Did you get anything back?
No, they said that they weren't allowed to talk about it.
I can tell you when we're done here, just tell them,
Okay.
I had my guys
Thank
out
you.
there, and I have all their trip reports. And I can give you all the information you need on everything that worked and everything that didn't work.
you.
Nets, everything that worked and everything that didn't work. Nets, I'm just telling you. But I'll tell you everything that worked and everything that didn't work.
Well, it sounds like we're gonna have some exciting work time, so that's great. Good job, guys. Thanks, everybody. 1, 2, 3.